When you think of John Mayer's Stratocasters, guitars that I'm sure come to mind are the Black One, the 64 Sunburst, the Monterey, and even a guitar like the Gold Leaf Stratocaster that was pretty much exclusively used for vultures. Now, a Stratocaster that I'm sure doesn't really come up very often is John's Sonic Blue Stratocaster, and today's video is going to be dedicated to this very guitar, so sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the story of John Mayer's Sonic Blue Strat. Now, I have to give a massive shout out to my friend Tommy, who helped me put together the information in today's video, and he is someone who actually owned one of the exact same Sonic Blue Stratocasters that John Mayer does. So he's kind of an expert on this guitar and the right person to chat with for the information to make sure we got everything kind of correct and lined up here. So Tommy, thanks so much for all the help. All of his socials will be linked in the description down below for you guys to go and check out if you don't know Tommy guitars already. Now let's get right on into it. So what I think is first important to keep in mind here is that this guitar is not vintage. That's the first thing we have to clarify. It's actually a master-built guitar made by John Cruz. And to kind of give some background information on John Cruz and John Mayer's relationship, John Cruz first became a master builder at Fender in 2003. And in 2004, as John already had a relationship with the Fender custom shop, John Cruz and John Mayer got together and started work on what would become the Black One. Of course, John's most iconic Strat of all time. And the guitar was delivered to John in late 2004. And around this time as well, John Cruz was working on what would become his master designed pickups. And these pickups would actually be what would end up in these Sonic Blue Stratocasters. Fast forward to 2005, and John Cruz starts on a limited edition run of 100 guitars based on a 1962 Sonic Blue Stratocaster. And it's from this very run that John Mayer's Sonic Blue Stratocaster is from. And actually on Reverb right now, I have up on my screen here, there is one of these guitars for sale. Now, they were produced between 2005 and 2006. And in my notes here, the earliest serial number that Tommy found of one of these guitars that he at least knows of, again, as kind of the expert on this guitar, is JC235, which was from 9/16/05. And then we have this one, which is John Cruz serial number 445, being actually the latest serial number that we have of this guitar in 2006, of the run at least. Now again, I'll link this all in the description down below if you want to check out the specs and everything, all these images in finer detail. It comes with those John Cruz limited edition pickups in it. It's got a 9.5 radius, as some kind of things to highlight in terms of the specs of the guitar, but they are just a beautiful example of a relic Sonic Blue Stratocaster from the Fender custom shop. Now we have some interesting information in regards to John's specific guitar from this run. Now, as I mentioned, the earliest serial number that we know of in this run, being John Cruz 235, was from September 16th, 2005. And John debuted his Sonic Blue Strat on September 14th of 2005 at the House of Blues in Hollywood, California with the John Mayer Trio. And it kind of goes to reason, based on these dates and when we know the guitars actually started to be finalized, that John probably has one of the first, if not the very first guitar from this run. And based on his relationship with John Cruz, it's highly likely that John Cruz built the very first Sonic Blue Strat from this run with John Mayer in mind. And even when you look at his versus some of the examples that you can find that have sold online, the relic pattern is a bit different on his guitar versus the other ones that you could say the general public had access to. It's also worth noting that at this performance that John debuted the Sonic Blue Stratocaster, Ivan Neville also played it when he joined John on stage. And keep in mind, this was the 6th show of the 2005 John Mayer Trio Tour, so fairly early on in the run we see the Sonic Blue Stratocaster debuted. And one of the songs that you'd see the Sonic Blue Stratocaster performed on is Who Did You Think I Was? Now, I've tried to find the full footage of this one performance, and my friend Alejandro, who runs John Mayer Gear on Instagram, also tried to find it, and this is the only video footage we could find of John playing Who Did You Think I Was on this Stratocaster. But based on some of the images we have of John with the guitar and where his hands are in the neck pickup position, I believe that it was used a handful of times during this period for Who Did You Think I Was. Now, what's really interesting when it comes to Who Did You Think I Was is that that footage you just listened to is from September 21st of 2005, and the Try album was a mixture of the recordings of the performances on September 21st and September 22nd. That album is a mixture of both of those shows. Now, from that footage, we know that that is not the version of Who Did You Think I Was that made it on the record, meaning that what is on the record is from the September 22nd show. And we have no footage of John performing Who Did You Think I Was of that night. Unfortunately, we have it from the first night they started recording the album. And if John used the Sonic Blue Strat for Who Did You Think I Was the first night they recorded, it's not that unlikely that we actually hear the Sonic Blue Strat on Who Did You Think I Was on the very next night, the one that made it on the album. So that's one thing I wanted to mention when it comes to Who Did You Think I Was in the Sonic Blue Stratocaster during this era, is that it wasn't used very often for Try, but the footage we have of him using it for, that actually is 100% confirmation that it was used for it, is from one of the two nights that they recorded Try on. So I still think if I had to bet, I'd say it's the Try Stratocaster that we hear for the Try album performance. There is a very big possibility, though, that for Who Did You Think I Was on the Try album, that's actually the Sonic Blue Stratocaster. We'll probably never know for sure, but hey, it's a possibility, and I wanted to mention that when it comes to that song. However, what the Sonic Blue Stratocaster is most famous for is being the guitar that John would predominantly perform Gravity with during this era. The most famous performance and best footage we have of John performing Gravity with the Sonic Blue Stratocaster, of course, being the Bowery Ballroom performance on November 23rd, 2005 in New York City. That's the one that I'm sure most of you will know this guitar from. Now, I think it's really interesting that the Sonic Blue Strat was used for mainly Gravity during the John Mayer Trio era, because we know the Black One had already been built and John had had it for quite a while, almost a full year at this time frame, and the Black One was used for Gravity a little bit during the John Mayer Trio era as well. And it's worth noting that on the Try album performance, John actually ended up using the Black One for Gravity during that performance. So don't think that the Try performance is actually the Sonic Blue Stratocaster. It's one of the few times, ironically, where we get the actual live album recorded version of when John uses the Black One during this era. Before we move on from the John Mayer Trio era, there's one theory that I'd like to quickly bring up, and it's one that some of us have, knowing John and how he loves to use the guitars he wrote songs on live as well. And because John mainly used the Sonic Blue Strat for Gravity during the Trio era when the song was kind of born, there was a bit of a theory that Gravity, or at least part of it, might have been actually written on this John Cruz Sonic Blue Stratocaster. There's no way of knowing for 100% certainty without John actually confirming it, but a few of us kind of think that, well, if it's the guitar that he started using live for Gravity, kind of goes to reason that maybe there is something to that guitar and Gravity. There's a special connection that that song has to that Stratocaster. Just just a cool theory that I wanted to mention before moving on to the Continuum recording sessions. And there was a really funny picture that John posted to his social media of him with his long hair, smoking either a fake or a real cigarette, or just having one in his mouth for the sake of the funny photo. But this was taken during the Continuum recording sessions in what I believe would have been 2006. So we have confirmation that the Sonic Blue Strat was used in the studio during the recording sessions for Continuum. What it was used on or for, no idea. Again, does it come back around to maybe you hear it on parts of Gravity, even if not the main guitar, maybe some of the overdubs or other tracks, you hear this Sonic Blue Strat on Gravity on Continuum. Who knows, but I'm willing to bet that you hear this guitar at least one time on Continuum if we have a shot of John actually playing it in the studio during those sessions. As far as 2006 is concerned, there's one other thing I want to mention that Tommy actually brought up in regards to this Sonic Blue Stratocaster. And in 2006, John received his John Cruz Masterbuilt version of his signature Stratocaster in the charcoal frost metallic finish. And this guitar kind of became the Gravity guitar, at least temporarily. And the Sonic Blue Strat went away at this time that John received this new Masterbuilt John Cruz guitar. So it's worth noting, I think, too, that you kind of have this transitionary period where you have the Sonic Blue primarily being the guitar for Gravity, then that John Cruz Charcoal Frost Metallic Strat comes in for Gravity, and then is eventually just replaced for the black one pretty much going forward until the Silver Skies become a thing again. Kind of being a main theme here as well with the Strats, and then of course the Silver Skies kind of kicking them off stage, at least for the Saab Rock Tour. You don't really see any Strats at all. Now, it's at this point here that the John Mayer Trio era has concluded and Continuum has been recorded and released. And you're probably thinking, well, that's kind of all she wrote as far as John Mayer and this John Cruz Sonic Blue Stratocaster. But it's not. There is this image I'm going to throw up on your screen right now of John playing the exact same Sonic Blue Stratocaster during the Born and Raised tour. And we know it's the exact same Stratocaster because there is one very specific relic kind of nick done to the paint of the guitar between the pickguard and the input jack that is consistent on every shot we have of this guitar, indicating that based on the relic pattern alone, that this is the exact same guitar. Now, this was taken at the Brooklyn show during the Born and Raised tour on December 17th of 2013, the very last show of this North American leg. And I have some footage of John playing the guitar. It is by no means the best at all, but I ended up going through the set list of that night and then what songs John could play on electric until I just finally found footage of him using it for something like Olivia. And it's very worth noting here that between the Continuum recording sessions and this performance in 2013, from what I know of, we have not seen John use this John Cruz Sonic Blue Stratocaster at all. All the photos I have of John using it during that tour are from this performance at the Barclays Center. We have no other footage, no other video of John using it on the Born and Raised Paradise Valley tours. It's possible he did, and I just haven't found it, but all the time and effort I put into trying to find any more footage or shots of it has come up empty-handed. So I truly believe that this is just a very weird occurrence of John using this guitar in 2013. Now, I wish I had a reason for you guys as to why John brought this guitar out from the vault and performed with it at the very last show of the leg in 2013, but we don't. And it's kind of weird as well that it was used for something like Levy. You'd maybe think that for even old time's sake, John would perform Gravity with it for the show, but something like Olivia, which is kind of a weird choice, but it kind of seems like that was a song that John was maybe experimenting with different guitars, as he used a few different guitars throughout the Born and Raised Paradise Valley era for that specific song. But yeah, very interesting that we have these awesome shots of John from that era using this guitar. And since then, again, it's been in the vault, and I don't really think we have a high chance of seeing this guitar return to John's use unless maybe he does a full-on John Mayer trio only tour and brings out a bunch of guitars that he used from that era to kind of revert back to the sound. And if you think of the John Mayer trio show that happened earlier on in 2023 here, where John kind of brought out a very similar rig as to the one he used back with the John Mayer trio and the Monterey Stratocaster returning, it's not completely within the realm of possibility, I guess, or not being in the realm of possibility, rather, that we could see this guitar returning, but I think it is extremely unlikely. But it's a really cool guitar that is just not talked about very often when you think of John and Stratocasters, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to put together what we know of with this guitar and John's use, especially when I stumbled upon the shots of John using it in 2013. I was blown away when I saw those photos, and I went, oh my goodness, wait, I totally thought too it was just used during the trio era and that was it. But then that kind of opened up this whole discussion around this guitar, and that's where the idea for this video really kind of came out. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know your thoughts on this guitar as well. If you think, or what you think of the tones of this guitar during the Tri era from the Bowery Ballroom performance versus the Black One on the Tri. That could be a really cool comparison, but with the way copyright works on YouTube, I probably won't be able to make that video. So go give the two of them a listen back to back and let me know your thoughts on the different tones between the two guitars, as the rest of the rig pretty much stays identical. So it's the best comparison of the two that we have, both being, of course, Masterbuilt by John Cruz as well. But you guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. It was a fun one and something different, and just kind of cool to bring up again, just a different guitar that you don't really hear discussed or talked of when it comes to John Mayer's guitar history. Until the next time, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you stuck with me all the way to the end. I think I've earned that at this point. You're going to get recommended my content no matter what. That's just the way YouTube works. But the subscription helps me out, lets me know I'm doing a good job when I keep seeing that number growing, and helps the channel grow to new people who haven't seen any of my content as well. So guys, again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.